these are guys, they're going to talk about something that's FTSE 50. I have some idea what it's about, but they will tell me. So, guys, just join me. We do it a little differently this time. Normally, I do the introductions, but I came up...
I have no idea what's about to happen.
I came up with an idea. Why don't you two introduce yourselves? But then Tom will do Jan, Jan will do Tom.
Okay.
How about that one?
Yes.
All right, go for it, John.
And then I...
Tom is the co-founder and the CEO of HumanMade, enterprise WordPress agency. He's a great guy, and he's going to be natural on stage. I love him. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
How long ago was it that you joined HumanMade?
8.5.
Yeah, I hired John 8.5 years ago, actually to work on this project, so it's kind of fortuitous. We've come full circle over that time to be here today. And actually, fun fact about John, which is when I interviewed him 8.5 years ago, it was actually at WordCamp US, I think.
Yeah,
in a bar. It was very, very loud, and the combination of John's accent and the bar being so loud meant I actually didn't really hear most of what he said in the interview.
Yeah.
But his passion came across, and I was able to talk to him again later and understand some of what he was saying, and I liked it. So.
It wasn't the liquor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Tom, he does this thing where he's in a meeting, he's chatting with us, and he's just turning around in circles. Doesn't sit down, just walks around in circles on the floor. Yeah.
Yeah. I find it hard to stand still.
Oh, yeah, well, okay. So the stage is big enough for you.
It's good, yeah.
All right, so guys, shall we just go? Give them a big applause for John Ang and Tom Wilmot. John, sorry. And banking on WordPress inside a FTSE 50 bank global platform. Good luck, guys.
You're driving the slides, right?
I am driving the slides. All right. So welcome, everyone. Today we're going to show you what it looks like when one of the most compliance-heavy, risk-averse industries in the world adopts WordPress to power the global web platform. This is not a microsite, it's not a blog. This is Standard Chartered, a FTSE 50 bank running its global digital platform on open source.
So the plan, John is going to walk us through how Standard Chartered use WordPress. And alongside that, I want to talk a little bit more broadly about WordPress's place in the enterprise CMS market, and why companies like Standard Chartered are choosing it as their primary CMS.
So I've been involved in this project from the start, first on the technical side, then as project manager, and now as a long-term strategic partner. Over the years, I've worked closely with Standard Chartered's engineering teams, editorial, governance, and the C-levels.
And I guess I was more involved at the beginning of the project, helping the senior stakeholders at the time kind of navigate the decision to move to WordPress. And yeah, learned a lot of interesting stuff as part of that conversation. So HumanMade was founded in the early years of WordPress, and right from the beginning, we wanted to focus on WordPress as a CMS for large, complex sites. In the early days, as you'll see here, this was primarily kind of online tech news. They were kind of early adopters, and so people like Digital Trends and Geek.com and even All Things D, that was an early one you might remember. And then following that, there was this era of traditional news moving on to WordPress. Companies like Chicago Tribune, News UK, The Guardian, and many more. And alongside that, we've also started to see some more traditional enterprise adopting WordPress. Now, to begin with, that was for things like company blogs, corporate comms, investor relations sites. But over time, we've seen more and more of these really large organizations adopt WordPress as their primary platform. And that's kind of what we're interested in today.
So, and what we've learned delivering WordPress at this level for publishers, public sectors, financial institutions, is that the challenges are not really about publishing. It is about trust, about visibility, about governance, and how you scale good decisions without increasing chaos. Now, the SE platform is built to solve this kind of problems. And this is why it shares DNA with the platforms we've built for government departments, for media groups, and other global organizations who need agility, structure, and continuity.
So I guess a little bit about Standard Chartered. They're like one of the most globally distributed banks in the world. So they work across 60 countries. I think something like 85,000 people work there. It's quite an incredibly large team. And their web estate reflects this scale. And so the WordPress platform runs 150 or so different sites with up to 500 people inside the CMS working every day, one of my favorite stats. And so there's regional teams across all of those countries managing their own content, their own marketing messaging. And then there's a global team which manages brand and governance and the tooling. And that team works alongside HumanMade to maintain and evolve that WordPress platform with a model of continuous improvement and iterative investment.
So this was, to us, quite really the unexpected journey. Now, frankly, WordPress wasn't the obvious choice for a bank, especially in 2016. And back then, Standard Chartered sites were running on open text theme sites, which was really expensive. It was inflexible. It was approaching end of life. And the global teams are frustrated. The local teams were blocked. And every few years, they were forced into costly rebuilds, even if they're using the same CMS, with little actual user value. So our goal was to break that cycle. And it wasn't just because the platform was old. We were brought in to solve some really real problems. The legacy system was rigid. Even if a small update needed a developer. And TeamSite was a file-based CMS, which kind of means that anything you did required code changes. Now, even if you were updating a menu link, that meant you would have to go in and update like 500 different files to get it live and global. And the tech stack was aging so badly that each replatform forced them to throw out past work and start again. Innovation couldn't compound, and it reset after a few years. So the result was frustration on all sides.
This is actually something, it's kind of a lesson from enterprise that even we relearn regularly, which is that it can be easy for those of us who work in WordPress to forget just how good WordPress is compared to a lot of these other enterprise platforms. Often just the basics of WordPress as a CMS. It's like user-friendly interface, the fact that multiple people can work in it at the same time, the fact that you don't have to edit files to change your content. Often those actually are the things that we're demoing and that are getting our prospective customers excited, which, yeah, we can forget and think that we need to have something super innovative, but often the bar is lower than you think with some of these enterprise platforms.
So in 2016, open text theme sites, again, the proprietary CMS that was using, seeing its age after a 5 years run at the bank. So Gutenberg wasn't quite an idea yet, and the REST API hasn't yet been merged in. So I think this might have been the moment where WordPress felt it was both feeling its potential, but was also seeing its age. But WordPress had 13 years at the end of building a user base that understood how easy it was to use and how reliable it was as a product. So with enough WordPress users in tech leadership positions, Standard Chartered took a chance on it. So why WordPress? Because it was really intuitive, extensible, and cost-effective. It gave editors control, developers freedom, and the business a way to move faster without compromising governance. So they worked with us, and I think in a big way because we were very scrappy, enterprise-ready, willing to talk, listen, and we had experience of building primary web platforms that were not blogs, not a usual thing at a point of time. And so together we were good enough to co-work and make it work for the bank. So Standard Chartered obviously didn't just put all of eggs in one basket right at the start. So we were tasked to only build the Singapore website with the likelihood that this would be replicated onto the Hong Kong setup. So it turns out that the week of launch that it garnered so much goodwill that the C-level executives said, oh, this is pretty awesome. And let's build it onto another 70 sites. And within the next year, we were global. So the impact moving to WordPress was immediate. Editors could finally manage their own content, something that was not simply possible on the legacy system. Updates that used to take days were now done in hours. They give the digital team a new kind of autonomy. And the change spread really fast. So suddenly, WordPress wasn't just tolerated, it was welcomed. And that early trust was critical and laid the foundation for a much bigger adoption.
So we've been talking about Standard Chartered using WordPress as their primary CMS, and I wanted to just take a little moment to dig into what that means. It might not be something you're familiar with if you're not working in the kind of enterprise CMS space. So as you can see here, the fact is that most enterprise companies actually use multiple CMSs, often even many more than two. And depending on which enterprises you talk to, you get kind of different stats. You can go to the next one, actually. But WordPress is the most dominant secondary CMS, and that's like, you see that really no matter who you talk to. In my experience, WordPress is in use like somewhere in almost every big company. Often that's because the organization's primary CMS is complicated and expensive, and so you can see why teams who can get away with it would want to use something that can enable them to move more quickly and is more flexible. Now, when this project started, all the way back in 2017 or something, it was unusual, 16 as John said. It was unusual for WordPress to be used as for that primary system. But over time, we've seen that become more common. And actually today, WordPress, again, you get kind of different stats depending on who you talk to, but this is a pretty common picture. WordPress is like challenging AEM as one of the most popular primary CMSs for these really large organizations. I also think this represents one of the biggest opportunities for WordPress, particularly with the shifts happening in the broader CMS space. Things like DXPs and composable, something I want to get to in a little bit. But first, we can continue the story of Standard Chartered, and John's going to talk us through how the platform scaled over that next few years.
So this is maybe just a subset of how many systems are integrated into what's needed to run the Standard Chartered platform. Multiple business units, agencies, internal teams all operate within one composable, governed architecture. They can launch fund libraries, campaign tools, big product pages using the same system. Local teams retain autonomy while maintaining global consistency through shared architecture. Because it's modular, it is API ready, and built on multi-site, this platform handles complexity while not becoming fragile. So while WordPress does a lot of heavy lifting out of the box, so we needed quite a few other pieces. Tooling we had already built to push WordPress beyond its user limits. So the REST API and Cavalcade wasn't created for the Standard Chartered specifically, but they turned out to be quite critical. The REST API lets us treat WordPress as an application framework, enabling decoupled front ends, editorial interfaces, and external data integrations. Cavalcade, it's our open source job queue, became essential for handling over 100,000 background jobs a day. Everything from automated publishing to data synchronizations. So the last thing that ties it all together, Otis Cloud, it's our hosting layer purpose-built for performance, security, and scale. Now, at the time, we didn't quite realize how central these tools would become, but in hindsight, they were there, foundational to making WordPress work at this level. And one of the key challenges of any global platform is governance. So who can access what? How do we ensure compliance? WordPress multi-site, when configured correctly, actually makes this really easy. We implemented custom roles. We set up permissions tailored to each market's needs with central oversight still in place. So part of this oversight was powered with an untamperable update log that has every action logged and makes everything traceable. So teams in Kenya or Singapore can manage their own content without risking the integrity and the global brand. It's governance without bottlenecks, and it's a big win for a regulated organization. Then security, not an afterthought. So this platform runs a static-first architecture across 45 markets. So meaning the majority of pages are built on WordPress, then converted and rendered statically, and delivered via CDN. So it's OSPA compliant, and SPA is a banking standard that allows you to work with banks. It meets SOC 2 standards and has handled some of the most sensitive publishing events for FTSE 50 bank. So including annual reports timed to the second. So interestingly, I found that working for a bank, annual reports have to be delivered to the second. So any later would shake confidence, and any earlier would actually have potential stock implications. So with the right approach, it checks every box for even the most risk-averse banks. Yeah.
So once WordPress proved itself, the bank started building more than just websites on it. Things like an interactive fund library that ingests data from a lot of sources and presents it via like a headless front end. Some internal campaign tools, financial calculators, they're like customer mobile apps. They're all powered by WordPress. And so what started as a content management system for a website it was used to manage much more. And so in the wider industry, that need to do more than just websites led to content management systems becoming digital experience platforms. Maybe you've heard this term DXPs. Now, that's based on a real need. These organizations do need to connect their CMS with customer data. They want to do things like personalization. They want to integrate e-commerce. Maybe they need to manage multiple channels, which just means that they can get content into things like apps and digital signage and newsletters in addition to their CMS, in addition to their website. And so that's where we've seen the rise of these all-in-one platforms. People like AEM, Sitecore, you can kind of think of them like Microsoft Office or something. You get a whole suite of tools, and the sales pitch is that you buy everything from one vendor, it's all really integrated, and you can deploy a single suite solution to power your whole digital stack. I think over the past few years, we've seen that this approach has had some significant downsides. It locks customers into an expensive and complex set of tools, and often they don't actually need some of what they're buying. And those platforms can't innovate as quickly because as like best-of-breed point solutions, and so they fall behind and become complex. And so while the rest of the industry has been pushing these all-in-one proprietary platforms, I think WordPress has offered a really interesting different path. So instead of all-in-one suites, you build on this powerful core flexible platform that you can then integrate with everything else you use. And because there's no lock-in and the freedoms you get from open source, you're free to use the tools and services that best meet your needs as an organization. And so you're not at the mercy of a roadmap or the R&D budget of a single vendor. You can customize that platform to your exact needs in the areas that it matters most. And you can, amazingly, do all of this at a lower total cost. And at the end of it, you've got a platform that you actually own and which meets your needs much more closely than these off-the-shelf platforms. And actually, that investment piece, you can keep on investing in those platforms. I think that's also a key advantage for WordPress, and so something I'll touch on after John tells us a little bit more about Standard Chartered. So John, do you want to tell us a little bit about the enterprise workflows and the block editor, some of the stuff that we've done there?
So we started Gutenberg. Well, not quite Gutenberg, because it didn't exist in 2016. So we did build something very similar to it. And well, when Gutenberg did come out, we moved on to it as soon as possible. Not just because it was new, but because it gave us the flexibility to build, design a system around reusable components. And that meant content teams in different countries, different regions could create pages that look consistent while still having the freedom to customize. So we built out a set of shared blogs, structured templates, invested early in features like collaborative editing. So this is where WordPress really began to feel like an enterprise application. So for the bank's wealth team, there's a video playing behind, we integrated Bloomberg, Morningstar, Refinitiv, CFRA, and directly into the editor. This means that users could insert charts, pull live financial metrics, generate PDF reports, all without leaving WordPress. So this replaced a proprietary system and eliminated the need for the content teams to email each other, and everything from data to design to export, almost there, and happened in one place. So this is the kind of deep integration that showed how far WordPress has come and how far WordPress can go when elevated with the right engineering. So Standard Chartered's wealth team needed to publish time-sensitive investment insights every day. The old process was fragmented, so slow and reliant on constant back and forth. So with real-time collaborative editing in the blog editor, and this is something that Core has been working towards too. We built this about 3 years ago. So editors, analysts, vendors could now work on the same draft at the same time. Think of this as being very similar to Google Docs. So visual indicators show who was editing what, which reduced bottlenecks and avoided version conflicts. This led to faster turnarounds, earlier involvement from compliance, and a workflow that felt more like a modern newsroom. Yeah, OK. You get a picture. And beyond collaboration, we've reshaped workflows to match how bank teams actually work within in a physical space. Relationship managers needed timely updates to share with clients. Compliance needed structure, traceable oversight. Editors needed flexibility without losing consistency. And we built a system to support parallel work, sync content to mobile apps, and embed approvals directly into the publishing flow. This approach improved didn't just improve publishing speed, but also overall coordination and responsiveness.
So how do large enterprises decide which digital platform to use? I think one older useful but still useful framing is this buy versus build decision. And so in the past, many organizations actually built their own CMS. And they had a lot of advantages from doing that, actually. They avoided vendor lock-in. They could really build something that exactly matched their needs. And they maintained a lot of control. But building and maintaining a CMS in-house is pretty expensive. And with the rise of SaaS, it's actually far less common these days for companies to be building their own software in-house. And so as a result, many of them shifted to buying CMS platforms in. I think what makes open source so powerful is that actually it can give you a lot of those benefits of build without the downsides. You get to own your own digital platform, but you can share the cost of that with the rest of the world who are contributing to that software too. And you can extend it and customize it to meet your exact needs. And I think that's something we don't talk about enough, actually, as WordPress, as the power that you get from that. I think another interesting way to think about this, the enterprise CMS decision-making process often has these replatforming cycles. And so an organization decides to buy a new CMS, and there's an expensive initial migration, and maybe they do some customization, although there's usually some limit on that. And then they have ongoing licensing fees. And 5 years go by, and the platform they move to, or the version of it that they're stuck on, is now outdated. It might even be end of life. Or maybe there's an entirely new product from the same company that they're supposed to upgrade to or pay to migrate to. And so at this point, there's kind of enough pain with that system that they'll decide to move again. And so you get this cycle of expensive migration to an exciting new platform that then becomes legacy and forces that costly migration. In fact, that's where Standard Chartered were trapped when we met them. They were really keen to break that cycle. And I think WordPress completely changes this through a combination of lower upfront migration costs. There's no ongoing license fees, this deep commitment that the project has to backwards compatibility, and the continuous development process of the core software itself with that regular release cycle. And so instead of spending money on licensing fees, organizations are free to spend that on continuous improvement instead. They can upgrade to new versions of WordPress as they come out. They can adopt new features like Gutenberg or full-site editing as they become available. And they can integrate WordPress with the changing landscape of tools and services that they're using across the organization. And they can be safe in the knowledge that the platform they're building on is staying cutting edge. WordPress has got 20-plus year history, but it's also managed to stay on the cutting edge through that time. And so it won't be abandoned. It's not going to be superseded by some next version that breaks backwards compatibility. And it's something ultimately they have control over.
So all of these functional systems led to a major strategic win for the bank. They were using one platform that they understood. They were piping their investments into one single area. As you might expect, a large bank doesn't just rely on a single vendor. So while we do have the global capacity to support all of their teams, banks are structured to work with multiple partners as a way to reduce risk. What's critical is that this risk reduction approach does not introduce security vulnerabilities or weaken compliance. And this is why we built a platform that allows us to work closely with the central tech team. So we in turn supports the various business units internally, and then even if they bring in external agencies to build a smaller campaign website and such, these teams are able to plug into our development and deployment workflows, and this helps ensure consistency, uphold security standards, and streamline delivery.
So there's a lot in this platform. We could spend hours up here demoing all the stuff, but I think we could just wrap up with some key takeaways. We've got a decade or more of experience now using WordPress at this level. And so I think, as we've shared, WordPress is dominant and pervasive as a secondary platform. Almost organizations have it somewhere. But I think the big opportunity is for WordPress to expand those installs that are currently tucked away inside corporate comms departments or marketing departments into platforms which sit at the center of an organization's digital ecosystem. I think the time is right for this because the world is moving away, actually, from those old all-in-one suites.
So this move away from monolithic platforms towards composable architecture is one of the biggest shifts happening in the enterprise tech. So WordPress feeds quite naturally into that model. It plays well with APIs, decoupled front ends, it's cloud native, so everything you want in a modern digital stack. And I think Standard Chartered used WordPress as the content engine that powered multiple front ends, from web to mobile to data tools to everything that's actually in the bank. So that separation of content and presentation meant that they could build for the future without rebuilding from scratch every time.
We've also seen open source adoption have this kind of decades-long march upwards in terms of enterprise acceptance. And so, like many of the organizations we're talking to, they've now been through multiple cycles of this like boom and bust of proprietary CMS platforms, or even whole industry paradigms that they're sold on and then maybe don't quite deliver. And so they're feeling the pain of those models. And I think they're more open than ever to the long-term value that building on open platforms like WordPress can bring. So it's a great time.
So technology only really works when it enables people. So Standard Chartered saw success because the platform was designed for editors, developers, and everyone else that was actually contributing to it. It was not just for IT checkboxes. And I think we often get caught up in features or benchmarks, but what matters really most is how usable, intuitive, and adaptable a system is for the teams that will rely on it every single day. And that's where WordPress really shines.
So that's it. That's our story. It's a real privilege to work with organizations like Standard Chartered and to help them realize the value of the building on open source platforms can bring.
And thanks so much for being here. We hope that it's given you a practical insight into what WordPress can look like at scale. If you want to ask about the tech and other specific pieces, we'd be happy to answer that. That's also a QR code that goes straight to getting a copy of the deck, if you would like to take a look at it. Thank you so much.
All right. Jon, Tom, I'm curious, are there any questions from the audience? We have 2 mics in the alley. Oh, I see a green shirt coming up. All right, go ahead.
Hi there. Just a short question, because the platform is multilingual, I would say, because you have multiple countries using and also multi-site for that. What plugin did you choose for the multilingual solution?
I was expecting that.
It's the green plugin, but yeah, it's a multilingual press. I think as an agency and building on multi-site, there's pretty much only one choice on that front, and it's been serving us pretty well. Well, you guys built that plugin. Good question. Thank you.
So far for some extra promotion. All right, more questions? Yeah. Yes, in the back, please step to the mic, please.
Hey, thank you for the great presentation. Yeah.
Sup.
This is a really, really cool case study, and I'm just curious about your process of getting to know the client and having the conversation with them so that they could become aware of their own pain points. In my experience, when I talk with enterprises kind of outside of the WordPress community, they often don't realize their own pain points because they're not really thinking about the fact that there could be an alternative such as WordPress. So I'm curious about how you started this conversation with them, and is that process something that can be replicated in talking with other enterprises?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can probably say a couple of things about that. Like, I think one thing is that back in 2016, 17, when these conversations started, a really common path for these organizations to have those conversations was that actually there was some internal champion who knew WordPress and like wanted to fight the fight to get it into the organization, and that was the case with Standard Chartered. They had a senior executive actually, so that was, I think, one of the reasons why they adopted WordPress in this like really large way so early. That's like less necessary these days, and so we do find ourselves in many more conversations with companies who actually, they don't have that internal champion. I think, what we find then is just like showing them WordPress as much as possible really opens their eyes. Like I said earlier, a lot of them actually are not aware of some of this stuff, like how easy it is or how easily they could migrate and get a lot of these benefits. They're used to that being complex and expensive.
a lot of things that you see in WordPress that's just defaults, multi-site, Gutenberg, even creating a menu in front-side, full-site editing, all these pieces feels second nature to us, that you kind of miss it, just moving a block something down, but it's just not there in any other CMS. So those are stuff that when you show to the clients, they're just amazed, just default stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether it came across in one of the early slides, but OpenText was like literally an FTP client that you clicked around and edited like raw files. I mean, even calling it CMS seems a stretch. And they had like an on-site team from the CMS provider they had to pay for to make those edits. They couldn't even do them themselves.
Yeah.
I think maybe had 40 full-time people at the height of the use of that platform, just making content edits in what they were calling a CMS. So, you know, that's kind of wild.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question? All right. Next one, please.
Hi, thank you for the great talk. I'm Rob. I work for a small financial service enterprise.
Ooh.
We switched to WordPress around 6 years ago.
Good job.
Funny you're talking about that internal champion. I would like to think that's me.
Very cool, well done.
Thank you. What we are finding recently, we switched to full-site editing as well. We get a lot of requests from marketing, from compliance, from everyone, like, we need this, we need that, we need this. How do you control which features you do build, which ones you don't build, which one you use external resources for, which ones you build into WordPress?
Yeah, I think that's less of a tech question and more of a asking them, why would you need this, right? So get them to prove it to you why this is important for the business. And this is what we do with Standard Chartered a lot. It's not just asking them that question, it's that tech team asking their business teams, why do you need this? What's the ROI that you're looking at? And how is it likely going to be reusable in the future? So when they are able to prove this to you in a way that they can express, then this is something that you could say, okay, let's take a look at building it. But if they cannot even explain it to you, then they've got to go back to the drawing board and work on it a little bit more. But I think I see the problems you're talking about. And I'll say that across, you have been working on this for 6 years. You should trust your intuition about whether this is useful and actually talk to them about it. Yeah.
I guess maybe I'd add to that a little bit. A model that's, I think, we've developed alongside Standard Chartered, but also works really well in other organizations, it's not just human-made building this for the customer. Inside Standard Chartered, they have a central platforms team, and it's really like a 50-50 partnership between human-made and that platform team, and they are then providing the CMS as a service to the rest of the bank. And so they can really bring an understanding of the business, and we can bring an understanding of the technical, and there's a lot of conversation that goes around bringing those things together, understanding what's coming down the roadmap from WordPress, what that's going to unlock for them, how that could be worked into the roadmap for the next year. So yeah, I mean, it can be complex, I guess, an agile, iterative process where you're just continuously re-asking those questions is the best we've found.
Okay, Tom.
One more?
One more, and that's really the last one, and then you can answer the questions in the WP Cafe.
Sure. Thanks for all the questions. This is great.
There's one person waiting. We can have that question and then a quick one, and then it's done.
How do you have conversations with enterprise clients about using AI, especially where risk and compliance is so important, but AI is the sort of trendy thing for people to be talking about?
Well, I think it starts off with them saying, no, you cannot use AI first. then it's about them figuring it out. I think we've just recently been looking at how even traffic gets affected by AI. And it's going to happen, right? And one of the things is it actually benefiting us or is it not? So when you have these conversations, again, it's going to start from do not use this. But you start these conversations around whether it's going to help, and as time actually goes by, it does help with adoption. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I find when I'm in sales conversations, you really want to figure out early on whether they are scared of AI and don't really want it, And so you like talking about all the exciting, innovative stuff that they could do is going to put them off, or whether actually they really are interested in that and that's what they want to hear about. And then you can go down the right path. There's times when I've got that wrong is when I've gone in and demoed all this snazzy stuff, and then they're like, oh, we're definitely never using AI. Maybe because of compliance or something.
Yeah, and I think I've seen this work before whereby understanding where AI is scary, like Tom said, where AI could be scary for them. So recently just talked to a client whereby they're not interested in having AI create content because they are writing great content. It's giving them a lot of page views. But they are interested in having AI curate the content and personalize it for their end users. So that's something that could actually work. And having those conversations about what could be useful, what they could be comfortable with, I think it's a good start. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Louise.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Boys,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this was the session for today. I have a gift for the two of you. Let me put the mic down.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.